Hey, what is up YouTube? Andrew Rooney here. Thank you so much for joining me on this Sweetwater GearFest video of Steve Jordan. Now, just real quick, if you're not familiar with Steve Jordan, shame on you. A few of his credits, because there are far too many for me to reel off right now. The Saturday Night Live Band, the Blues Brothers soundtrack, I mean, come on. Keith Richards and the Expensive Winos, John Mayer Trio, The Verbs. We could keep going. Don Henley, Aretha Franklin, Roberta Flack. It literally never ends. Guys, Steve Jordan is my number one living drummer, I think, on the planet. I have mentioned him more than any other drummer on my podcast. That's the NZ Drummer Podcast. If you go check it out, you will hear me bringing him up at any opportunity. He is just a subtle magician of the drumming arts. Let's hear from the man himself, the eighth wonder of the drumming world, Mr. Steve Jordan.
Greetings, everybody. Nick DiVirgilio here, GearFest 2021, and I'm hanging via Zoom with the master, Steve Jordan. How you doing, man?
What's happening, Nick? How you doing?
Hold on. Already. How cool is this dude? Oh, and I should have warned you, I will be stopping this video throughout. This is for me to comment on. Please head along to the original video if you don't want me blabbing all over it. Come on, how cool is this dude? And I love Nick as well. Nick is a legend.
Great to see you. Great to meet you. I don't think we've ever met in person over the years, but I have to tell you, man, you are a huge inspiration to my playing, just because I've learned a lot from your, what I call, you have such a deep pocket, no matter what style of music you're playing. So my first question is, since you had such a long history in the studio making just tons of records, where did you get your sense of groove from? I know you have to go back in the day, but where did that all kind of stem from? Because you have such great groove no matter who you're playing for.
That is a fantastic question. Jeez, I'm going to have to remember this for the next time I do a podcast interview. Just leading with that question, taking you back into the background of the player like this, of a renowned pocket legend. No one's got a better pocket than Steve. No one.
It goes back to the first records I ever heard. I love music so much and I love records that when I listen to records, I get this other kind of feeling, you know, when a record is really pocketed, where it excites me, and I get there's a physical reaction. So I want to create the same thing for people. So that's what I look for when I'm playing. And if I'm not getting that, then it's not there.
Now, and has your playing changed? I mean, we all kind of mature and grow up over the years, of course, but has your playing changed a lot from what you did back in the 70s and 80s to what you're doing now?
I don't want to answer for Steve. I'm going to, of course, allow him to do his answer. I noticed a huge change in his playing.
Absolutely. Kind of like two different lives. When I listen to some of the stuff I played in the 70s,
he was really busy.
That person?
He was really busy back then.
Because I played so much more.
Okay.
And of course, early on, you try to emulate some of the people that you like the most.
Sure.
So I was a huge Dave Garibaldi fan, a very big Harvey Mason fan, a very big Steve Gadd fan. And I knew, and then I ended up befriending these people. So you befriend like some of your heroes at a very early age. It's kind of wild, you know? So I played along, you know, along those lines, because in high school, I was listening to a lot of Tower of Power and stuff like that. But before that, you know, I was, you know, Motown, Stax, Beatle fanatic. I'm a real British invasion influenced person.
Sure.
And then I realized, you know, as a kid, you don't realize that they were covering all this music. John Belushi started to turn me on to the material that we were going to do for the Blues Brothers. That's when I really discovered the greatness of Fred Below and Earl Palmer via that thing. I mean, I knew them and I knew of them but I did the deep dive.
Right.
You know, preparing for the Blues Brothers. And what we did with the Blues Brothers, it was a combination of things. It wasn't straight traditional blues. We were doing a contemporary version of the blues because that's what the thing called for.
Right.
I mean, if I were playing that material now, I wouldn't play it anywhere like the way I played it.
That is what the material called for. Follow it up with, if I played it now, what did he say? Something along the lines of, if I played it now, I wouldn't play anything like that. Guys, this is gold. I realize it's a little bit strange, me commenting. I need to put myself in a little box along with these guys. Of course, it's one thing to hear these things, and we all sort of, instinctively know these things. We've heard these types of common sense things a lot. Hearing it from someone like Steve Jordan and having a little bit of experience yourself or myself, it becomes so much more impactful. Really wise stuff. He doesn't often say a lot, but when he does, it is normally really profound and something worth thinking about.
So would you play it more traditional now?
More traditional. First of all, everything was way too fast.
Okay.
But that was the time. First of all, everybody was faster. Everything was fast. The Saturday Night Live was exploding. It wasn't a straight traditional thing. Like we said, we're going to turn people on to this music, but we're going to do it in a contemporary fashion.
Sure.
When we recorded Briefcase Full of Blues, it went to #1 in 7 weeks. It was the #1 album in the world. And so that was really wild. I'm still a teenager, and this is just crazy stuff.
Wow.
Soul Man, our version of Soul Man was the #1 record. So you're a kid and you're thinking, wow, this is really amazing. This is really great, and you're feeling pretty good about your version. And then I was in a gas station and I heard the original version again, and I almost passed out because it was so incredible. And Al Jackson was so unbelievable.
Yeah.
And and our version just paled in comparison, or and I'm not talking about the singing. We know that Sam and Dave were obviously real singers, but I'm talking about Al Jackson's groove, and that his pocket on that is so bulletproof, ironclad, compared to what I did, which was a contemporary version.
Right.
It's almost embarrassing, It's like, I just like, wow, it was.
Nothing Steve's ever played in his life is embarrassing. Trust me. I know what he's getting at, but he's been very humble here.
Such a lesson in humility, Like I was like, okay, no, this is the thing here. Don't get too excited, Steve,
Know your role. That is such a big part of being a sideman, being a drummer in a band, making other people feel good. I think that is the true voodoo of Steve Jordan, and why he is so successful is he knows his role. He's humble enough to play his part and make other people sound good. His part is often quite invisible.
So did you take that? Did you take that lesson at the gas station and hearing that into your future studio career? Because I mean, you just done a ton
Absolutely.
of records.
Yeah. Absolutely. What I did was I really went back to the thing that made me the happiest. I wanted to loosen up my playing. In the studio, especially in New York, and with the precision playing that was being executed, everything was a little tight.
Okay.
Wasn't loose enough. I didn't appreciate Jabbo Starks until later. Like early on, I almost thought, well, anybody could do that. Wrong. No, not at all. Jabbo's pocket was so amazing that he could just do this one thing over and
James
over again.
Brown drummer?
It was hypnotic. That's what you want. You want to put somebody in a trance.
And that is exactly Steve's genius. His grooves are trance-like. So he has achieved that goal that he set out for himself.
A little bit of more research on you and just checking out some stuff, old YouTube footage and stuff. I saw a killer track from the David Letterman show with James Brown, and Hiram Bullock was just dancing his head off, and you guys were doing Sex Machine and stuff, and it was really fantastic. I know you say you might have been playing a lot, but boy, you were just killing it.
That video, I swear to God, is probably one of my favorite drum videos of all time. James Brown on Letterman supporting, Steve Jordan playing in the Letterman band supporting James Brown. I'm going to link to that in the description of the video. It is every drummer, every musician should watch that video at some point, if not weekly.
It was really fun to
No,
listen to.
no. See, that was the beginning of the transformation. I was coming out of the fusion thing.
It's an
Okay.
amazing
So I was
clip.
out of the fusion head at that point. So when we played with James Brown in July of 1982, and I've said this before, we have waited our whole lives to play with James Brown.
I can imagine. It must have been a really cool moment for you.
And so James had heard about the band, and so he brought 2 horn players with him, the great Sinclair Pinckney, who I'd listened to as a kid, and Holly Ferris, a trumpet player who I did not know, who was a great, great trumpet player. James basically posed the question to us, what did we want to play? So, I wanted to play Sex Machine. Hiram wanted to play There Was a Time. And then we had played
Gotta see the clip.
I Got the Feeling in our set.
Trust me, you gotta see the clip.
And when he heard us play I Got the Feeling, he was like, he couldn't believe it. He jumped out of his chair and he was like, so he kind of took over the show.
Right.
Now, when we played Sex Machine, and mind you, we'd only rehearsed for 5 minutes in the sound check. It wasn't a very extensive rehearsal.
Right.
I believe the story goes, I wanted to play at a certain tempo, and he wanted to bring it up because it's live. And of course, if you're a James Brown fanatic like I am, I should have known better because he never plays anything record tempo.
Always hot.
It's always 2-3 times the tempo. So he heard it up. And he scattered, he did all kinds of stuff. We were on him, like he couldn't believe what was happening. We couldn't believe what was happening. And to this day, it was unbelievable. So now what he said to me after the show, because I went back to get his autograph, he was sitting under his hairdryer and, the crown, the whole thing. It was surreal, actually. The whole thing was surreal. Reverend Al Sharpton is standing behind him with the hair and the whole thing. It was kind of crazy. Anyway, he got up from the dryer and he said, brother, you're high. And I didn't know what he meant, And I was like, what? And he said, your energy is high. This is the best show I've done in front of cameras since the Tammy Show.
Wow.
Now, I saw the Tammy Show in the theaters when I was 8 years old. You don't get a compliment any,
Bigger than that, yeah.
bigger than that. I mean, that's like when he said that, I'll
James
never
Brown
forget it. It was
wasn't
like
going around giving out
emblazoned
compliments
in my brain, But I didn't know what he meant because, you have all these great performances, whether he's on the Hollywood Palace or Merv Griffin or Mike Douglas or, all these great television performances. So I didn't really know what he meant. But then it hit me about 25 years later what he meant, or maybe more. With those great performances that he did in front of cameras, they were rehearsed. He expected that out of his band.
Right.
This thing made him go places that he hadn't gone in a while because he hadn't worked with us. So the energy
fire.
was so new and it was so fresh.
So glad that going down
and he
the
went
story.
places like when he scats in the last chorus of Sex Machine. When you hear James Brown scat?
Right.
Like that kind of thing. He just went, he started speaking in tongues. That's basically what that was, okay? And so that's what he meant. It took me a while to realize what he meant. When we did There Was a Time, we didn't rehearse that at all. That was completely spontaneous.
Wow.
And then when we did I Got the Feeling, we didn't rehearse that either.
Wow.
He just heard us playing it. So I just made sure when I was playing that I hit him every time he hit when he did a dance move or whatever, I hit him, pow, just did a spin, pit, he hit the floor, bam, you know what I mean? And that was it. So I'm hitting him, and he's looking back, and it was like, it was that kind of energy.
Sure. Well, you could tell by watching it. It was fantastic.
And so that, to me, it was the highlight of my whole David Letterman experience.
Try and think of this scenario where you're backing your favorite artist. James Brown, I think he said James Brown was his, that was his guy. And he had been dreaming of playing with James Brown since he was a kid. Think of playing with your dream artist. It's live on TV. You've had 5 minutes, 5 minutes to rehearse. Some of the songs you haven't even rehearsed at all. And you're going to execute like that. It's just going to be absolute fire. And the artist is just having the time of his life. And the artist, James Brown, his regular band was no joke. So for him to rate that Letterman band as highly as he did, massive.
Was that. And that was like the first year. So I was like, oh, well, you can't top this. So what am I going to do?
Well, let's switch gears to talk about what you're doing now. You got a couple of cool projects. We've had the pandemic and people not doing things. Stuck at home, but it seems like you've been staying busy. And you still have your band, The Verbs, right? That's still going?
Absolutely. We're making our fourth record now called Garage Sale. And it's on our label, JV Records. We're very excited about it. It's going to be a raw rock and roll experience. And that's what we do. Obviously, That's what Megan and I love. We both love great music and melodic music and power pop and stuff.
Sure.
But, the power is in the song itself, and so that's what that is. And she's the primary writer. So
Can't wait to check that out.
Just great. I just love it. It's my favorite thing. And then on our label, we have a record called Beat Odyssey 2020.
Yeah, I was going to ask you
that
about
I did with Mixmaster Mike. And that
I haven't caught that.
just was, working with Mike is just incredible. I've never heard a turntablist do what he does. That's why he's a grandmaster DJ. And he's a musician,
Sure.
And he's got a deep appreciation for jazz. So when we play together, we are really exercising the main ingredient of jazz, which is improvisation. So this record that we did is
I love how open-minded he is.
In improvisation. And we had fun. We just threw it,
All the old
no
school
holds
classic
barred.
stuff,
Just did our
but
thing.
still play with the DJ.
So, Steve, before you play some drums, will you tell us a little about the gear that you're playing there? 'Cause you've been a long-time Yamaha player, Paiste player. What do you got in front of you there?
What I have here is, and I'm very excited
I got to say, Yamaha, because of Steve Jordan.
about this. I am playing with the new Yamaha aluminum hardware.
Lightweight.
And when I tell you that I'm excited, it's for several reasons. I'm excited for drum techs that don't have to lose fingers and break backs any longer.
Right.
I'm also very excited because it's been my theory forever that the harder, the bulkier the cymbal stand, the more it chokes the cymbal sound.
Interesting.
Which is the reason why I've always been a fan of single brace, old school.
Me too.
Old Rogers.
Me too. I cannot, personally, I'm not into the heavy double braced hardware. I always go for the lightest, but without any movement, right? So it needs to do the job. It needs to be stable, but light. And when you're out gigging a lot, you soon get sick of the heavy hardware.
Rhythmatic and old Ludwig stands and old Slingerland stands, it's very thin cymbal stand. And of course now when people playing so hard and they're not playing the cymbals, they're actually hitting and bashing the cymbals, the old cymbal stands can't hold up. And that's so we started with the double bracing and the racks and everything like that to withstand the assault. But if you've noticed, the cymbals don't sound very good under assault. But when you're playing the cymbals, you want the least amount of iron holding the cymbal so that the cymbal is kind of like the cymbal is suspended.
Who else, what other drummers do you hear talking like this? Now, this really showcases Steve Jordan's producer brain, where he's thinking of the drum kit completely different to most of us. There's just so much to unpack here. This guy's on a different level.
This cymbal in particular is fantastic. This ride cymbal, it's a Paiste thin, 24-inch thin cymbal, which is part of the Masters series. And
Even demoing a ride cymbal, there's pocket there. Just unreal.
can get very loud, I can get very soft. Such a incredible dynamic range. So I can just use one and I can get crashes out of it, ride, loud, soft, everything. It's beautiful. And it's 24 inches. It's fantastic.
Nice.
And then, of course, I'm using my signature Peisty traditional hi-hat cymbals that are 17 inches.
17-inch hi-hats. There it is.
But it's good for everything. Very
Come on,
versatile
Steve.
cymbal. Very, here again, dynamic range. Get really soft, really loud. Whatever. So this is a great combination. The Master Series with the traditional series. So that's what the
Just
Peisty
dropping
stuff.
into a beat like that.
And I'm using this Yamaha Dax Dad bass drum, which is no longer in circulation. Yeah, so that's it. And of course, I'm using my Vic Firth Steve Jordan signature stick, which is, it's my favorite stick, obviously.
Right.
And it just sounds great. And it's very versatile. Like I said, I don't have to switch sticks if I'm playing this kind of music or that kind of music or
That's
whatever.
the trick, guys. Get the Steve Jordan sticks.
It is a stick for all seasons.
Very nice.
A tiny bass drum. This guy can't get any cooler. Look at that jacket. I can't believe he can just lay stuff down like this.
Steve, thank you
One
so
day.
much for spending the time with me today.
One
I
day.
really appreciate it, and going out of your way to go to the studio and hang and play a little bit and talk about your career. Just thanks again, and I wish you all the best for all your future endeavors, man.
Thank you very much, Nick, and good luck with GearFest.
Woohoo!
That was absolutely fantastic. Only a short clip of Steve playing at the end, and I mean, who else can just keep raising the tempo like that and make it sound so in the pocket at the same time? No one else. Steve, absolute magician behind the drums, and a little bit of homework for you. Couple of tracks that you have to check out. John Mayer, Waiting on the World to Change. I'm sure you've heard that track before. Listen to it again. Focus on the drums. Listen to what the drums are doing and just the vibe that is created. And Vultures, also by John Mayer. Check out the James Brown clip that he referred to, and I guess what the bulk of that interview was referring to, that James Brown clip. It is legit one of my favorite drumming clips. I've featured the Vinnie Colaiuta one on the channel before, the Joan Rivers showcase. Steve Jordan backing James Brown on Letterman, that's up in that rare air for me as well. It is just, it's mind-blowing, and it kind of encapsulates everything that I want to do on the drums, and one day when I grow up, I would like to sound like that. Guys, thank you so much for watching and joining me in this little watch party. Remember, all the links to the original videos and to Sweetwater are in the description of this video. Check them out. Listen to the interview again. There's just so many nuggets in there. So many things to take away and think about that I'm sure will help your playing and help your enjoyment of Steve's incredible legacy behind the kit. Until next time, ciao for now.